Alright, hello Internet! Magic Man here from MMOBomb.com, and today we bring you the premiere episode of Fuse, the show where we get in touch with gamers and community members and anybody who's interested in coming on to promote their unique projects, guilds, games, and what have you. We've got somebody here just to the side right here that some of you may already know, but you may know him by a different name depending on where you've seen him. Which should we use? We've got Amerist, we've got Kit, we've got Prince of Mill Avenue. What name should we use today?
Well, for today we're going to be using Amerist because that's what I go by when I'm on forums, like MMOBomb, for example.
Okay, that'll work. So we're going to put Amerist underneath you. But if you have any of those other names, you've seen him. It's the same guy right here, doing some pretty neat stuff with his YouTube channel. That's why we've asked him to come on. We're going to talk a little bit about some games, though, first, if you don't mind, before we get to your channel, because I want to kind of get you introduced here to maybe somebody that doesn't know you. So let's pretend we're on the free-to-play cast, Amerist. Let's introduce you and talk about what game got you into gaming, period, and more specifically, MMOs.
Well, what got me into gaming, specifically MMOs, would probably be World of Warcraft.
Oh.
While I did have some experience with things like EverQuest and Dark Age of Camelot, none of them really caught my attention as much as World of Warcraft managed to.
Blasphemy! You didn't like Dark Age of Camelot?
Dark Age of Camelot had the weirdest lag issues that I just could not withstand, and it was probably my internet connection that was injuring me more than the game.
3-faction PvP, and I happen to know you're kind of a PvP combat guy. Man, that blows my mind. It blows my mind. So you've been gaming for a while, obviously. What's your favorite free-to-play? Since that's what we do here at MMO Bomb. I know you have a stream where you play Borderlands 2 currently is the game of choice with some of your friends there. If you want to give a shout-out to them.
Sure. I'd like to give a shout out to Nelson Williams and Arian Keith, who are the two people that I play Borderlands 2 with on my live stream.
Very fun stream. I've checked it out a number of times. But from the free-to-play side, what's your favorite free-to-play game right now?
Right now, my favorite free-to-play game is one that didn't start out free-to-play, and that would be Star Trek Online. Mostly because I really enjoy the Star Trek universe, and I like being able to fly a Star Trek capital ship.
I would not have guessed that. So you're looking forward to Season 7 then, huh?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to put it up on the live stream and show everyone what it's like to play with a whole bunch of people in an MMO.
Are you one of those, that's your favorite game all time that's free?
Yeah.
Is that just the current one? Because we all have that ADD thing bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, I have some extreme ADD because I not only do I study MMO games, but I also review them, which means that I'm constantly loading up the newest one or I'm going back to old ones to see how my friends who still play that particular one are doing.
That sounds like me. I'm going to play this today and then probably not play it for a week because I've got 7 other things I've got to check out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's get to the big question then. Are you a totally free player when you're in Star Trek or any of your free-to-play games, or are you shelling out a little bit of cash there, my friend?
I've shelled out a little bit here and there. The most I've actually ever spent, I think, was in Star Trek Online, and that was about $50, so that I could get my paws on the Odyssey.
All right, let's shift gears here just a little bit because you mentioned your reviews, your videos there, and that's one of the things that I really thought was creative and a lot of people would enjoy seeing and asked you to be on the show. I appreciate it. You have your YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Prince of Mill Avenue. Avenue is abbreviated, AVE. We've got it below here if you guys want to check it out. Head on over there. And you do some game things here and there, but you've got a pretty recurring series that's a little bit unique. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'm working on a series called MMO Anthropology, and that's because I've been an anthropology student for the last forever. And one of the theses that I like to do is I like to do what are called ethnographies, and those are studies of specific cultures and often small communities. And gamers form communities, like at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
We see it not just from even single-player games where we have cosplayers who generate looks exactly like the people that they love from a game like Skyrim. But we've seen it even with Blizzard's World of Warcraft, where they have their own convention and people then even show up wearing their faction regalia and stuff like that. So I wanted to interview people and say, what brought you into this? How did you form a community, and what's your guild like? I mean, guilds themselves are microcosms of cultures, and they're a little bit understudied right now. And as I work towards getting a bachelor's and a master's degree in anthropology, I'd love to use that as my thesis. And I use my YouTube channel to talk about some of the things that I run into and what some of the insights that anthropology brings to people's use of virtual worlds, or in this case specifically, gaming in virtual worlds.
It's pretty unique. I mean, I'm a YouTube junkie. I surf and try to find the end of YouTube, and someday I'm going to find it. But when you introduced me to your particular project, I was kind of intrigued because there's not really a big niche group of people doing that same type of video. I think you really stumbled on something unique and interesting to both gamers and non-gamers, which I think is the more important piece, is that you've managed to hit both demographics with what you're talking about. One of my favorite little snippets that you just did recently, and maybe we can talk about this because she did win in her district there, was our friend, the World of Warcraft politician. Tell us a little bit about that piece you did.
Well, I can't remember her last name at the moment, but her first name was Colleen, and she played an orc assassin, or still plays intermittently, in World of Warcraft, and she took some flack for this because she's running for political office. And MMO gamers are, while we come from a literally multi-billion dollar industry, are not mainstream. And so as a result, her opponents made it look really sinister that she played a green-skinned assassin who uses daggers and poison to kill people. And some of the stuff was just, they were using in-game terminology like DPS, which means damage per second, to make it look like it was death per second.
Oh, I know, the print ad.
As scary and sinister as possible. And so I went to her Armory page to see what she was doing recently, because she said, "Hey, I haven't had time to game. I'm a freaking politician running for office. I don't have enough time to run around in World of Warcraft and raid every night." So I look it up and I discover that her latest achievements have been fishing achievements. So she's going into the scary virtual world where she uses poisons and she assassinates people, and she's fishing.
And she's going fishing.
Right.
So you also do interviews in that series. I was lucky enough to be a guest on that show before. Spunkify has been another one of your guests. You've had guests from various MMO and gaming-related websites, and you're always kind of looking for anybody that really wants to chat, huh?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, what I'm doing are essentially kind of like the informal opening interviews for an ethnographic survey. But since I don't have a thesis I'm building around it, I'm just asking people questions, trying to highlight what it is to be an MMO gamer and why people play MMO games. But I'm doing it in a way where I can produce media that I can then maybe just use as topical for future research, or even a documentary if I ever get along that far.
I would pay to see that documentary. I really would. I'm a huge fan of like gamer documentaries. I mean, they're kind of dorky in their own respect because they're not usually well done. Have you seen things like Second Skin or The Raid, those types of documentaries? What's your feeling being an anthropology student there?
I really love it. Actually, I'm constantly looking forward for things like Second Skin or The Raid, and in fact, I continue to watch the work, or at least even the random social emissions of the people who did those, in order to see if there's something else going to appear. Often it either glamorizes or it fails to hit most of the points that I'm looking for. but often it gives me ideas on the sort of things to ask people, or even hooks, reach out to people and say, hey, I saw you already did this. I'm really curious about this. How did you get these people to talk? Like, where are they?
I'm a huge fan of Second Skin, in one regard mainly, because most documentaries that you see, even YouTube documentaries with gamers that are, just making a short film or whatever, they either tend to favor one side of the spectrum, right?
Right.
MMO gaming is the spawn of Satan and you should never touch it. MMO gaming is demonized and we're sick of being demonized. Look at how good it is.
Right.
I think Second Skin did a really nice job of, okay, here's a few people that have really taken this too far.
Yes.
And here's a few people that it's really making a positive impact in their life. And I think that's an interesting dichotomy that your channel kind of aims to explore in a much more specific sense, if I'm being truthful there.
Yes. In fact, while I do a lot more stuff on the positive light, since most of my things are very... Well, I have a split. I split between the very academic, which I try to water down as far as possible, into layman territory, because I don't want to get into very specific jargon-filled research, because I won't be able to talk to anyone.
Right.
And the other side is the interviews, which is the very personal aspect. And for the most part, people don't want to talk about the things that they didn't like about their experience, or the things they feel injured them. So they have a tendency to speak about it in a high regard. But if I bring someone on who found themselves, diving so far into a virtual world that it destroyed the rest of their life, and they want to speak about that, I'm going to give them a platform, because it's personal experience in that side that I'm trying to bring forward to my viewers.
Yeah, and I think it's like Second Skin pulled it off, It's important to show both sides of that.
Yes.
So, yeah, not sugarcoat it, even though you are a gamer yourself. So, speaking of this, you're making all these videos. We know it doesn't take 10 minutes to do. At least I know it doesn't take 10 minutes to do. So, I gotta ask, from a gaming perspective, how often per week are you actually able to just sit back, kick your feet up, and game?
Often maybe about 3 times a week. Often it's on the weekend, because what I do for YouTube and what I do in reviews and stuff like that is actually work. Although sometimes I do just take a break and run around and have fun in between running off into the most recent MMO. But I always try to set aside a few hours. In fact, the live stream itself, where I play with my friends, and it's even part of my work at the same time, is still me hanging out, running around in a video game shouting and blowing up robots. So I'd say that's a mixture.
So when we had our interview, when you interviewed me for an episode, we talked about some gaming moments that, maybe meant a lot to me or things like that. So I want to ask you a bit more on the sillier side of this. We've all had those derp moments, right? Whether they're in games or in real life. So what's your derp moment? Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, you know how I started off saying that I got into MMOs via World of Warcraft?
Right.
Well, in World of Warcraft, my favorite character class, which, amusingly enough, is no longer my main, is still the Shadow Priest, who are essentially a floating miasma of purple who melt faces.
Well, Havoc is immediately a fan of yours now. That's his main.
The only problem is that they also have a panic button, which essentially scares everything around them to cause them to run, fleeing, screaming. While this is useful in keeping me alive, World of Warcraft has this mechanic that fleeing enemies can alert other enemies to come kill me, and all of my friends. And during one particular raid, I accidentally hit the panic button, sending an entire room of enemies screaming to the far corners, and they brought back virtually the entire dungeon to kill us.
Nice.
It took me years to live that one down. To the extent that I removed it from my hotbar, so I couldn't accidentally hit that button ever again in the future.
I can just listen to that vent. Who did that? Oh, it was the anthropologist. So, have you ever delved into like the backside kind of the gaming? I mean, we all have that dream, right? Of, oh man, I love these 8 games. If I could make the perfect game, here's what I would do. Now you get to see not only your favorites, but some games that maybe you haven't even heard about through some of these interviews.
Sure.
What's Amerist's perfect game if you can create one?
If I could create one, it would be a lot like a mixture of a social experience like Second Life with an MMO where the mechanics are set and there's rules and etc. So it would be kind of a very social version maybe of World of Warcraft, where you have a world that is already set that's different from any IP, but enables people to interact with it and change the world their own. Like, like add in a little bit of what Terra was supposed to do with their political,
right.
And add in maybe part of a Star Trek-like one where you have ships and planets so that people can be mayors of specific regions. In fact, it was, I believe it was Star Wars Galaxies had a specific character class that was designed for building communities, the politician.
The politician.
Yeah, and I'd love to see one where we have all the game mechanics and for like raiders and PvP and people to run around and everything, but I want it to be able to tie really well into a social aspect where you have hairdressers and image designers and politicians who make cities, and then they cast down to the PvPers to fight wars for them between different cities in a vast, beautiful virtual world. And as much as that would probably build trolls, and certainly we'd have the goon swarm there,
right?
With people online and etc. But that would probably make it a more interesting living universe. Where we have social people and we have PvP and raiding people all integrated together.
And this, of course, would be free to play, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
We need a big audience as possible.
So let's finish up here. We've talked free to play. We've talked some general gaming. I just want to get a sense on the free to play cast. I know you've listened to that before. We do the weekly bombs where you give us a dub bomb, something good about the gaming industry or a game or a company. A bomb, something bad. Just as a whole, overall, maybe your project in particular, a game you like, whatever. If I asked you right now, your weekly bombs, tell me, what do you like, what do you don't like right now?
Well, right now, it would be the exact same game. We get the A-bomb and the Da-bomb. Primarily, everybody knows about City of Heroes by now, that it's shutting down, right? I want to leave them as they're going out the door, a Da-bomb, for making one of the games that, in fact, was the secondary game to bring me into MMO gaming, which, alongside World of Warcraft, was City of Heroes. And it's one of the best superhero MMORPGs ever developed, especially because of the costuming system, enabling people to make amazing looking characters and actually personalize themselves, which I think is a very important part of every MMO. And I want to thank them for having built and run such an amazing game for as long as they did. But at the same time, the other side of the coin is an A-bomb for the fact that the people that run it have not done a very good job of trying to preserve it. They are literally just getting rid of it.
Right. And
I understand that's a business decision, and I mean, I can't fault them for that, but it doesn't mean I'm going to like it.
Well, perfect. Any last comments that you want to toss out to the viewers? Check out, obviously, your YouTube channel, youtube.com/theprinceofmillav, AVE. We'll have a link down below for you if you've somehow managed to miss it, scrolling on and off here throughout the show. But any last comments for our viewers before we part ways, Amerist?
Just that I do a live stream with friends of mine on Fridays and Saturdays for the MMO Anthropology channel. And we welcome people to come along with us. If you happen to have the game that we're playing at the moment, and we will be getting into some free-to-play games, especially when Borderlands 2 burns out, like when we run out of it, people are welcome to come play with us. The whole point of the live stream is to also bring people together, especially people who watch my YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun time. You've got some nice co-hosts with you there that make it very entertaining to watch, especially with the screaming gun. So,
Yes, oh my god.
little shout out to your buddies there with the screaming gun there. Well, thanks for joining us, Amerist. Guys, if you like this episode of Fuse, make sure you go down below, click like, put your comments in, come on over to the site. We have a ton of new shows launching over the next week and a half. We've also got some live stream action of our own. Check out Amerist's links below so that you can enjoy his content as well. And if you've got something going on that you'd like to have on the show here, spend a little time and get some interviews and hopefully some views for your project, send some information to contact@MMOBomb.com and we'll get back in touch with you if we think it's something we would like to feature on the show. Until next time, guys, Amerist, you know it by now. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the servers.